Hello. Today's video is about setting up your drums. Now, I've been doing some online lessons with my students, and I've noticed that when I see the drum sets at home, there's some really crazy setups. So I want to point them out one by one. The first thing I see with some of your setups is that your toms, including your floor tom, are too angled. I had one student whose toms are almost angled at a 90-degree angle, which is way too much. Now, if you look at any drum set, most of the time you're going to see about a 45-degree angle, as you can see on my two rack toms here, the small and the medium. And the floor tom, generally, I keep fairly, flat. You can tilt it towards you. That's a personal thing, but not at this crazy 45 or even 90-degree angle. You just can't strike it well. The other thing I want to point out is the snare drum. I keep mine flat. There's lots of drummers who angle theirs. That's not that big of a deal. What I think is a bigger issue is the fact that a lot of snare drums on my students, they're too low. They go below the level of your thigh. Okay? It should be, I think, the rim should be at least flush with the thigh, maybe a little higher, because when you strike the snare drum, you want to also hit the rim at the same time eventually, not at the beginning, because it's a little tricky. So what I'm talking about is when you hit the snare drum, not only are you striking it in the center, but you're also striking it on the rim. That gives you a really good crack shot. Now, not all of you do that yet, but you will eventually. The other thing is the hi-hat angle. It's pretty common that I would say most drummers around the world keep their hi-hat, 180 degrees flat. Yes, some people tilt them. It can be a personal thing, but I think you should start out with your hi-hat fairly flat. And if you look also at the relation between the floor tom and the snare, they're almost across from one another. Now, on the electronic kits, when you start moving stuff around, improving the angles of your drums, you're going to have to lift up. You're going to have to play with these bars. You may have to lift them up. You may have to change where the snare drum attaches to the main post, depending how your snare drum works. Mine is on a snare drum stand, so it's not an issue. But a lot of smaller kits, they'll be attached to a bar, and maybe you need to put it on, above one of these bars in order to get the proper height. So yes, it's a bit of a pain, but you need to do that to get your snare drum height well and good. The other thing about cymbals, if you look at my crash, some drummers keep them flat, some of them angle them. You don't want too much of an angle. You do want to hit the edge of the crash cymbal with generally the shoulder of the stick. I don't have my drums turned on, so but if you look at the angle of that crash, it's roughly 45 degrees. You can make it flat. A lot of drummers do, and in the past had their cymbals flat before they invented cymbal tilters, believe it or not. The ride cymbal. If you have a medium tom on an acoustic kit, the ride cymbal, these two can get in one other's way. Electronic kit, not as much, because everything tends to be smaller. Again, I keep my ride cymbal roughly 45-degree angle, but look how close it is to the rest of the drums, to the medium tom and the floor tom. It's nice and close, easy to get to. So play around with that. I have a second crash, which a lot of beginner drummers don't have. And again, it's kind of the angle I like. So there you go. There is, I'll pull back. There is a view of your standard drum set. Everything's within reach, not at crazy 90-degree angles. And the snare drum, I like to keep flat. You can tilt it towards you if you like. And the hi-hat is flat. Bass drum, just make sure it's not too far away. Excuse me. And that's it. Watch drummers online. Just watch them play and look at the angles they have their drums and their cymbals at and compare it to yours. Okay? That's it from me.